we're going to talk about Our Lady. Now, I know some of you have a hard time with what we hope is going to be the new fifth dogma. And what it does is explain that Our Dear Lady is intercessor, mediatrix, that's what that means, co-redemptrix. The co-redemptrix is what kind of trips everybody up. But I want you to be ready for it. I think at one time, this year, maybe next year, God only knows, the Holy Father will proclaim this a dogma.
That was EWTN's foundress, Mother Mary Angelica, in March of 1998, of course speaking about Our Lady as co-redemptrix. This was the title Mother hoped John Paul II would declare during his pontificate. Well, this week, the Dicastery for the Doctrine of Faith and its prefect, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, issued a doctrinal note titled The Mother of the Faithful People of God. In it, he rejects the title of co-redemptrix for Our Lady. Here with brief analysis of this document, what it says, what it does not say, Mariology expert and theologian at the Franciscan University of Steubenville, Dr. Mark Miravalle. Dr. Miravalle, thank you for being here. Share with the audience what this title actually means, co-redemptrix. And it was approved by Pope Leo XIII in 1885. So this is not a new concept, and as the Mother Angelica clip shows, give me a sense of what Mary as co-redemptrix means.
Surely. It simply means that Mary uniquely cooperated with and under Jesus Christ, the sole divine Redeemer, in the work of redemption. And that happens critically at two places. One is her yes that brings the world its Redeemer at the Annunciation. The second at Calvary, where she cooperates and suffers with Jesus, as Lumen Gentium 58 says, as part of the new Adam, new Eve team to redeem the world. And it's always included in it the subordinate role of Our Lady. It's never been close to being an idea that Mary is a goddess or Mary is on the level of equality with Jesus. And that's why you've had Leo XIII approve the title. It's been used under the pontificate of Pope St. Pius X. It's been used 3 times by Pius XI and 7 times by St. John Paul II. So it certainly is an appropriate title with an understanding of the tradition of the Church and what the Church has always meant by the title itself.
Well, this new document, and again, it's a doctrinal note, it states, quote, in this case, the expression co-redemptrix does not help extol Mary as the first and foremost collaborator in the work of redemption and grace, for it carries the risk of eclipsing the exclusive role of Jesus Christ. So, Dr. Miravalle, I mean, the point here is that, and when you read on in the document, it says it's confusing and it could lead to confusion. Is the official declaration of co-redemptrix necessary to understand the role of Our Lady in salvation history?
Right. Well, technically, any doctrine can be relayed in a formulation. It doesn't have to be limited to a title. That's true of the elements that have been already defined in the Church. You could talk about Mary as being the mother of the Word made flesh. You don't have to use the title Mother of God. At the same time, the Church has legitimately and appropriately used titles throughout its history to convey doctrines, to, in a single term or a single word, convey a truth that's revealed within the sources of revelation and that has been articulated by the papal magisterium. So, for example, papal infallibility takes some time to explain. Transubstantiation takes time to explain. But we don't, I think as a principle, we want to be careful of hedging away from titles rather than evangelizing and explaining what the titles mean. Otherwise, we're starting on a slippery slope of eliminating things like hypostatic union and dare we say even Trinity, which is not explicitly in Scripture in terms of a title.
Well, that's what I mean. If confusion in the secular world becomes the new watchword controlling doctrine, and language in the Catholic Church. Let's start with synodality, celibacy, monogamy, transubstantiation. All of these are confusing concepts and, frankly, language and words that can lead to huge misunderstandings, and I would argue challenge at times true conversion and evangelical outreach. But my question is, why is this, Dr. Miravalle, the most pressing issue to clarify in the Church now? And does this document close the case, if you will, on the issue of the titles related to Our Lady?
Well, as we know, with the strong championing of by Pope Leo the XIV and the Holy See and the DDF, synodality means dialogue, right? We listen, we go back and forth, and a doctrinal note of a DDF certainly should not be considered the final word. That's actually what we have dogmas for. That's the final word, a definition. And if in fact there's so much confusion, and I think, as I've heard from people internationally, the confusion that has come out in light of this document could be the greatest possible reason for a solemn definition, so that we would know with absolute certainty from the highest authority in the Church who Mary is and who she's not. That she's not a goddess, that she's not equal with Jesus, but that she is uniquely participating in the work of Jesus in the redemption, both in terms of the acquiring of the graces of redemption as the new Eve with the new Adam, also in distributing the graces of redemption. And that's perhaps one of the most concerning things about the document, is how it fundamentally skips over 4 centuries of papal teaching on the fact, the doctrinal truth, that Mary is a secondary instrumental cause of receiving all graces. So otherwise, what do we do with 4 centuries of papal teaching? What do we do with St. Louis Marie de Montfort? What do we do with St. Maximin Kolbe? What do we do with St. John Paul II, who has established his Mariology precisely on these roles and truths of Our Lady in the Order of Redemption?
But St. Louis de Montfort never referred to her as co-redemptrix, did he?
No, but he uses the title Mediatrix of all graces throughout.
Yes, he does, but he doesn't call her co-redemptrix.
He does not, but of course St. Maximilian Kolbe does. Really, co-redemptrix, as Protestant scholars in the 50s said, was so often used that they claimed that, does the Catholic Church believe anything other than Mary as co-redemptrix? Ironically, Raymond, on November 4th of 1984, 41 years to the day of this document, John Paul II called Our Lady the co-redemptrix. And so it brings confusion to the people when you have popes and saints like Mother Teresa and Padre Pio and St. Jose Maria Escriva, who use this title, and then all of a sudden with a doctrinal note, it is inappropriate. I think that calls for greater examination.
But Dr. Miravalle, I mean, just to put this in historical context, and look, I've been following this since Mother Angelica recorded that show. The truth is, and I know you and others were really pressing upon the Pope, John Paul II, to declare this dogma of the co-redemptrix. John Paul didn't do it. Benedict didn't do it as either, and Pope Benedict is quoted here, of course. Now they quote Benedict, not about the Mass and the other things he taught, but on this point they're quoting Pope Benedict. Pope Benedict said he thought it too was not rooted in Scripture or in the apostolic tradition. You would say what in the final word?
I would say, first of all, that's not accurate. Pope Benedict didn't say a single word on co-redemptrix. Cardinal Ratzinger did. And we have to be very careful to elevate everything that a cardinal says before he's the vicar of Christ. I mean, Cardinal Ratzinger made a statement in secular press. I find that one of the difficulties in the document, that they do not include the 7 times that Pope St. John Paul II used the title, 2 of which have extensive explanations to it, but they rather quote a secular interview. I'm not sure that's parody in a doctrinal note. At the same time, it's ultimately up to every pope, and every pope can make that call for himself based on authentic discernment. About 8 million people who have asked him to do that. And I think, we just canonized, we made Newman a doctor of the church. What was Newman's strongest point? When it comes to development of doctrine, especially regarding Mary, listen to the laity, consult to the laity. So there's 8 million petitions for this definition. I wonder how many petitions the DDF has received against the title co-redemptrix. Is it 100? Is it 50? Is it 20? I don't think you've got a paritable tally with that. I think the faithful really want this, and I think it's something to be considered.
Dr. Mark Miravalle, thanks for bringing us up to speed on this, and we will check in with you as this develops, as no doubt it will. Thank you.
Thank you, Raymond. God bless.